Sing, your mama said. Hello, Ned.
Hello, Russell.
That kind of rhymes. Said it, Ned. Well, there you go.
Sing,
Some
your mama
elementary
said.
rhyming right there.
Intro me. My name is Ned.
Oh, there you go. What's up, everybody?
What's up,
welcome.
guys?
Welcome to the Adventure Time podcast. That is Never Ending Adventure. I am one of your co-hosts, Russell Tyndall.
And I'm your other co-host, DJ Neddy P.
Ned.
And my dog in the background.
And a dog in the background, little corgi boy.
Little corgi boy.
If y'all follow us on TikTok, you have seen the corgi make some appearances. I think he made one very recently with one of those classic things that are happening right now.
Yeah, just TikTok trendy.
One of those things.
That's not going to age well, is it?
No, I don't think so, but that's okay.
Well.
Ned, it's so weird. This is like our weekly catch-up in a way, which I do love that we get to have, but at the same time, it's like things are just like progressing, like life is progressing, and I feel like not seeing you every week or being in Nashville, it's very different in a way. Like I'm getting used to it, and I bring this up because like you're starting to remind me. You kind of remind me of the Babe.
What Babe?
The Babe with the power.
What power?
The power of voodoo.
Who do?
You do.
Do what?
Remind me of the Babe. That's right. It's a Labyrinth episode.
It's a nod to Labyrinth because we are in episode 22 of season 2, The Limit. I loved this episode, man. I think this is definitely top 3 for season 2 for me.
You have made references to this episode in the past, for sure. We've talked about Jake's limit and his ability. We've talked about the ancient Psychum Tandem war elephant several times.
It's a lot of stuff that I feel like, well, one, we've talked about Jake a lot because we've seen him be OP and we always have Jake mistakes and we're like, how much can he do? And this is the one where you do see him like push stretchy powers and it's pretty intense, man. It's honestly, you can really see he stretches like miles, He
gets down to the size of a finger. Like he is tiny.
I was going to say like a pencil. Like even that final
definitely.
stretch, it was like probably pencil thin. Yeah.
Yeah. It's impressive. And the whole time, like you see him struggling way early on. And for whatever reason, he keeps pushing it. He's just, a victim of influence of his friends. And he just keeps going and going and going. And Jake. And here we are. He's like about to die. Like he got stung by like scorpions. There's so many things that happen to him along the way, and yet he keeps pushing it just by pure pressure.
Yeah. Well, there's peer pressure and motivation. And that's my deeper thought. So we can save and hold on to that because there was like a fine line that Jake drew. But first of all, in this episode, I thought it was just great that we start off in the hot dog kingdom and we see finally what the hot dog kingdom actually is. It's like a doghouse and a little fence around
like a mud pit.
That's it.
Is that really the kingdom? That's the whole thing?
That is the whole because maybe we've seen Hot Dog Princess, I think, at this point.
We may have seen the kingdom if that's what it is. Because there was a moment, I think the first time we saw Hot Dog Princess in season 1, we see her in her her dog house or like right outside the dog house for a split second.
Yeah.
But
okay. So maybe not the first appearance, but I definitely think it's the first
biggest
time
appearance.
You make that connection. You're like, oh, the citizens of the hot dog kingdom are just like
they're hot dogs.
8 hot dog nights, and she's the princess, and that's it.
Well, I just can't even with that. And I'm a guy who I want a dachshund one day because they are so dumb looking, and I mean that in the best way. Like I love dachshunds.
Yeah, I grew up with a dachshund.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. And they're the phenomenal dogs. They yap like nobody's business, but they are very sweet.
What was your dachshund's name?
His name was Max from Max from the Grinch.
Oh yes, Maximus.
I wanted to name him Pringles because when he was a hot dog puppy, you could have slid him into a can of Pringles.
Wait, okay. I've never thought about what dachshund puppies look like, and it just makes me need one. I need a dachshund puppy.
Oh my gosh, he was probably all of like 4.5 pounds. Like, and you could have just been like slid him right into Pringles can.
My cousins, my first cousins have always had dachshunds, and I just fell in love with it because of that. And like I said, they just look so dumb. Their body and their legs don't make any sense with
Hmm.
physics, and it's just the greatest thing
Yeah,
ever.
well, I love that they kind of make like they even have Hot Dog Princess. Like her knights like walk around on like legs, but she definitely is the embodiment of like the dachshund, wiener dog.
Yeah, yeah, she is. But the Knights are just hot dogs, and they tend to like kind of fish around when they're thrown off balance or they land on their side and stuff. They really weird choice for characters, and I think it pays off in this episode. I'll just go ahead and say the hot dogs are my most punchable characters.
Yeah, I almost thought that Aquarius, or did I actually say that? Yeah, the yeah, I can't get his name right. Aquandrius is the muddy snake's name,
Okay.
which I thought was kind of funny, Aquandrius. But he was
Andre.
punchable for a second there. But then I was like, actually, the hot dogs are more punchable in this episode.
Yeah, and it's not even I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I think they're great characters. I just think if I had to have a most punchable character, it's gotta be the hot dogs. They waste their
Yeah,
wishes. They're kinda dumb. They kinda commit suicide in many ways, but at the same time, they're still fun. Like,
yeah, they're
they add to the episode. You see them the first time we see them, well, outside of the mud pit, but the 4 that are needing to be rescued are, like, at the beginning of the maze. They've
yeah,
gone nowhere.
they've
They're
gotten
at
nowhere.
Ben's making a comment where he's just like, "Man, I don't know how we're gonna find the hot dogs." Oh, there they are.
They're
Like,
like
the first wall.
They're like not the antithesis of Finn and Jake, but they are like the world's worst adventurers because they literally don't serve any purpose in this episode at all. Or like no purpose in terms of helping them get through the maze. First of all, like I was wondering why they were there because obviously Hot Dog Princess, either she didn't know that there was a wish at the center of the labyrinth, but she's like, I sent hot dog knights to go rescue my hot dog knights that went to the labyrinth. So maybe Hot Dog Princess was trying to get her knights to go get her a wish. Maybe she wanted to wish she had a
Possibly
bigger
so.
kingdom. Who knows?
But I think she would have had to have been
Yeah.
at the center of the labyrinth to even get the wish anyway, so
But it
maybe
was
she
it
had
was
given them
still
a
a
mission
little
like, "Hey, go wish for this thing." And she
yeah, it was
didn't tell
still I
Finn and
think
Jake. She's like, "I'm not gonna let them know what my purpose is."
yeah, I mean the wish in the center of the labyrinth was very like I guess vague because it was like the only thing we knew about it was that it was a labyrinth. And then the hot dog knights just like, hey, there's a wish at the center of this maze. But it's not like, is it a coin? Is it a one time thing? Is it a genie in a bottle? Like what? Like it was very vague on what it was. So that's,
And
I
it
mean, maybe
totally
Hot Dog Princess
changed.
didn't know what it was.
Possibly so. I think maybe they discovered along the way, like in the movie Labyrinth, which we'll probably reference several times in this episode, you have a character at the very beginning, the like fuzzy character who, if you haven't seen it, I mean, I guess spoilers, but he basically tells them, "Hey, go this way and you can get to the center of the labyrinth real easily." And of course they go, "Oh, well, he's trying to trick us. Let's go the other way." So maybe they came across a little fuzzy worm at the beginning of the labyrinth that was like, "Oh, there's a wish in the middle if you keep going," and they're like, "All right,
Yeah.
well,
Oh,
here
yeah,
we go
that's
to the
true.
center to get the wish." But it definitely changes Finn and Jake's entire purpose of being there.
Yeah.
They
They
were
were
there
just
to save the hot
literally
dogs,
to
but
get the hot dog guys out. And, they just talked about wishing. They had wished on a firefly. Just Finn goes down and kisses the little firefly. And they had
yeah,
just talked about ancient psychic tandem war elephant, and so they were like, "This is the opportunity."
yeah, something special only two bros could share.
Yeah,
That is
definitely
so
something
good.
special. Yeah, it's tandem. It's tandem, so it's meant for bros, right?
Would you tandem ancient second
Dude,
warrior
one
elephant
one
with me?
hundred percent. We'd have to have that mind's eye thing that we talked about of our brains would have to be in sync with the
Oh,
with the
definitely would.
psychic nature of the elephant.
I think I'd have to let you go up to the war elephant and gain control of it. I think I would let you do that, and I'll just sit back and watch. Uh,
Elephant, hear me.
See, I'm a little risk adverse, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit later on when we're talking about influence and peer pressure. I've always kind of been an instigator when it comes to my friends, and I think that's what I'm getting at is, oh, Ned, you got
you're
this, man. You can totally do it.
you're the bad
You know,
influence for me.
I'm the bad influence. Oh, well, it's a good influence. We'll get into that too. I think we're going to talk about negative and positive peer pressure later on in the
Yeah, that's
episode. I
very
think
true.
I think it's incredibly important that it's not just one-sided. But in this instance, I'm definitely going to be, Ned, you got it, dude. I believe in you. Like, take control of that psychic elephant, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I love Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant, and plays a really big role when we get down the road with I'm trying to not spoil too much, but Darren the Ancient Sleeper and the Sky Witch and all that stuff. So I'm trying not to spoil it, but the cool thing and we'll just drop it off. Lovelies.
Give me some sugar, baby.
That Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant's my lovely for sure.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it's such an awesome character. The voice is so awesome. It's a kind of like a double layered voice, which I thought was cool. And I never really thought about it too much, but down the road, you're like, is this something that Finn and Jake came up with and that they created and had like talked about? But in the episode Something Big, it does confirm that the Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant was an entity that was like an ancient power, because Darren, the Ancient Sleeper, who I'm not going to spoil anything there, calls him Eli. And he's like, in that episode, he's like, what's with all of this old, there's none of the old ways, Eli. Like, what's happened? And he's like, it's very interesting that he like was basically this ancient power alongside Darren, the Ancient Sleeper. And that Finn and Jake probably learned about him through the Enchiridion. And that's how they knew how to control him and how to like, and so that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that it's not just like made up by them.
I like that. We bring back the Enchiridion, something that we haven't really talked about in, 20 episodes or something. I don't even remember the last time we brought that up.
Yeah, the Enchiridion gets a lot bigger when we get really into like the Lich and then what's happening with the Lich coming up next, which I'm not going to spoil that at all for any listeners out there. But
I don't think we've seen the Lich yet. I thought it was going to be Death, but Death is not the Lich. That's a different character entirely.
Yeah, I think the Lich is coming soon, so that's good.
Cool.
I think the Lich helps us lead into season 3.
I gotta say, man, there's got to be a shorter name for Eli. I guess Eli is it, but no one's gonna ever go, oh yeah, they're talking about the elephant, unless I guess if you love the show, maybe you will. But
yeah, I think fans call it Aptiwi, or Apti War Elephant or something like that. It's trying to like get a little short name there.
I like Aptiwi. That sounds fun. Well, it's also my lovely.
Yeah, I figured
it's just so good.
It's just so good, man. Yeah. And it's got shotguns as tusks and little like step ladder up its arm so you can like climb on top of it.
It's got shotguns as tusks?
Yeah, you didn't see it's got like 2 shotgun tusks like sticking out to the side of it.
Yes. Okay. Definitely. That just backs up my opinion. That is so good.
Just and they don't use it. They get the Tandem War Elephant, and then he does show up at a later episode. And he's been just like chilling out in Finn and Jake's treasure room, totally covered by treasure. And he's like, you told me to wait, and I have for 2 years. Like,
it makes me wonder, is the War Elephant just hanging out in Ooo somewhere, and then they teleported? He's like, oh, you want that thing? Okay, there's one of them in the world. We'll teleport you to the center of the labyrinth, and now it's yours to potentially gain control. Or was it something that was ancient? It was no longer alive, like a saber-toothed tiger or something like that. And then the mud serpent was able to go like, boom, here you go. Here's your War Elephant. I was kind of wondering about that.
I assume, kind of just based on Darren the Ancient Sleeper too, that he was either in some sort of dungeon or cavern or covered up by some, when those ancient powers kind of went to rest, that he was somewhere out in the world just not being controlled. And obviously he's like yes, my master. He has to be in psychic connection with a master in order to function. So I assume that if his last master died, he went into like an ancient slumber,
Okay. That is so cool. I do want to clarify real fast before we keep going too much further. If you haven't seen Labyrinth 1986, David Bowie is a Goblin King.
Mm-hmm.
Go watch that ridiculous movie.
Yeah, it's all very... People praise
is done by the dude from the Muppets.
It's Jim Henson, and it's like praised as one of Jim Henson's best works in terms of like puppeteering,
which is wild to me because it's not at all nostalgic. It's like the Goonies for me. It's like there's so many movies that people love. Princess Bride's another one that I didn't watch when I was a kid. and I just can't get into it. And this was another one where I'm sitting here and I'm watching David Bowie, like literally a couple months ago, sing Dance Magic Dance, and I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Why is this a thing?
How in the world did they convince David Bowie to do that? You know,
I love David Bowie. He's like one of my favorite artists in a way. You know, he's like top 20 at least. You know, which is saying something for me. And it just blows my mind that he did that. But I love it. It's good. Go check it out.
Yeah, go check it out. I haven't watched it since like 6th grade, man. And I think my teacher in 6th grade was like, you have to watch this movie. You guys, like, we're going to watch it in class on like an off day. And everybody in the class was like, what in the world are we watching? Like, we did not expect it to be that weird, you know?
It must have been right after I was going to make a reference to another episode, the book fair. Like, I like to think of little Ned coming back from the Scholastic book fair or whatever, being like, time to go watch Labyrinth.
Yeah.
But I guess that was an elementary school thing. I don't know.
Yeah. But still, it's a bizarre movie, but it's worth a watch just because it's such a cult classic, and it's referenced. It's like, this is a Labyrinth, and why wasn't this one called Maze, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I've learned just from enough media and movies and TV shows, whatever, you see a Labyrinth, don't go in it. It's not worth it. You're gonna die. It's set up to kill you, essentially.
Yeah, and I think, was it the difference between probably a maze and a labyrinth is a labyrinth has like traps and booby traps and monsters and stuff in it?
And I think also a labyrinth is constantly changing. I didn't look into that. I think that's a really great distinction that someone like Allie would go, oh yeah, this is exactly what it is, because that's right up her alley of like expertise, pun intended, I guess. But yeah, I really don't know, but I think it's constantly changing. I always think of like a centaur or something hanging out, waiting to just be like, oh, now you're in my dungeon, you know?
Yeah, well, and that you bring up a good point there, because I was like, I think I like this episode so much because it feels like season 2's version of Dungeon, which was in season 1, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of has that same vibe. They have a couple of different tasks and trials. They do a montage of them like walking through the labyrinth. And I was like, it just has that good dungeony Adventure Time experience with this one. And we haven't had that in a few episodes, at least, you know?
No, not at all. I think this is definitely going to be in my top 5 for the end of this season. It's such a good episode. You got Jake, like we said, pushing his limits on this episode. If you're going to go into a labyrinth, tie a string, but they don't have string. They got something better. They got Jake can wrap his legs around a stone at the beginning of the labyrinth and go in there and try and make his way through the entire labyrinth just by stretching. Yeah, but it does cause some problems.
It causes problems. Well, I had a couple of Jake mistakes here, because we have to talk about a couple of the moments in the. I think it was a really great beginning strategy of Jake Stretchy to get the hot dog eyes. I think when they realized that they were going to find the center of the labyrinth, why would they need to get back, essentially? So, because they were going to get the hot dog eyes and just get them out, you know, and that's why they were going to backtrack. And now if they're trying to solve the maze, it helps because it helps you know where you've been, but only once in the whole labyrinth do they ever see Jake's, you know, his NERP, you know, and he's like, don't touch my NERP.
See, that's where they should have backtracked too. They should
They should have unstretched Jake at that point. Yeah. I said the same thing. I was like, dude, you should have just unstretched. And then they go in the holes and out of the holes, and he's just like, why would you do that? Like, why wouldn't you just unstretch? And even at that point, if they realized that they were gonna try to like backtrack the maze, like, why not just like get a stick or get your sword and like drag a line on the ground? You know,
but if you watch Labyrinth, you see they try and mark. I believe they're like marking the ground, or there's stones pointing certain ways, and the creatures of the labyrinth flip the stones over and trying to erase your backtracking. So maybe that wouldn't have worked. But I definitely agree. There's a lot of micro changes they could have made throughout this episode that would have allowed more efficient travel and allowed Jake to have more strength toward the end there.
Yeah,
he almost dies.
That was my last Jake mistake, was when they get to the center of the labyrinth, why wouldn't you have, unless you thought you had to make the wish and then find your way out. But if they also knew that they were going to wish for ancient psychic tandem war elephant, they knew that they were going to fly away. So when they found the entrance to the center of the maze with the kitty cat puzzle, I was like, dude, at that point, he should have been like, great, we made it. I'm going to unstretch, you know?
Well, the rule is no cheating. I'm guessing if you're bailing and you're like, we can't do this, let's get out of here, it wouldn't be you would die because you would just be leaving, you know? So maybe they could have stretched out over, like to your point, they could have stretched out over the labyrinth to leave as long as they're not going toward the center because they're not cheating. They're just trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
Unless the rules of the labyrinth are loose and they're like, well, you're cheating to stay alive. So, you know,
that's death immediately. Well, and the you know, Aquandrius, his goal was to basically somehow kill all of them or trap them or, you know, have that. And we'll talk I think in a second about wish strategies and ironic wishing and stuff like that. But I did want to ask you too, like, what's your maze strategy? Like, what would be your labyrinth strategy?
There is no great answer to that. I think you just got to think opposite. It's almost like think the opposite way that you normally would, because the labyrinth is set up, or it seems to be set up in a way to, if you're logically thinking how you normally would, you're just going to end up going in circles. So you got to go, oh, we should go right here because we went left last time. No, just do the opposite of that. I don't really know. I would be terrible. I would never go in a labyrinth. This is not an adventure I would take.
It's not your best adventuring. Dungeons are Russell's specialty, not labyrinths.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you have the classic riddle too. A lot of times in labyrinths, you have these riddle guards or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie Labyrinth, they come across it, and it's that classic riddle where it goes, I tell the truth always, I tell a lie always. You know, you have behind us, there's one pathway that leads to the center, and the other one will kill you. Make a choice. You can ask us one question that will allow you to decipher between which door they go down. And every time I come across that riddle, I forget how to answer it, and I would lose. I would die every single time.
Yeah. I think we even have talked about in the past how we're both pretty terrible at riddles.
Yeah, I think that riddle actually comes up in Adventure Time in the past. I think we've already come across it one time where they did that. One of us tells the truth and one of us lies. I can't do that riddle. I don't know why. I can never remember.
It probably just goes along with like it's so illogical that if you're trying to make it logical, you just always like hit a roadblock, you know?
Yeah, it's something along the lines of like, if I were to ask you, just say the one of them. If I were to ask you, would the other one lie to me? If I asked them the right question, what would they say? It's something like that. But anyways, I don't know.
I have a maze strategy, and again, I don't know if it would meet a labyrinth, if the definition of a labyrinth is that it's always changing, but there is almost a scientific way to do any maze. If you put your right hand on the wall and literally never take your hand off the wall, it'll take longer, but you will always get to the end of the maze.
So there's a guy in Survivor who did that. One of the contestants in the show Survivor, which I've actually never seen. I just fell down a rabbit hole on YouTube one time. He did that, and everybody was blindfolded, and he made it through the maze before everybody. That's so smart.
Yeah.
I mean, labyrinth, I don't know if it would work, but a maze.
Yeah, that's what I know with the labyrinth. You'd have to stop and fight whatever enemy or riddle or whatever that you came across. But if we can assume that this isn't a changing maze, and the labyrinth aspect is just the trials and the golems and the scorpions, then that should have been the strategy. Would just be to put the right hand on the wall and just walk through it. You know?
Yeah, man.
So that's my strategy.
I think that's great, but I started feeling real bad for Jake in this episode. Man, at the end, he can't even close his eyelids. Like, he is suffering. He's gotten stung by scorpions. Like, dude. Poor Jake, man.
Yeah, especially when he gets his guts like smashed by the door that shuts. I was like, that, yeah, done.
Oh, yeah. The freaking hot dog jumping on the cat, you know,
I love
puzzle.
Kittens.
The hot dogs, there are hot dog deaths that occur in this episode, 3 of them. And they just all bother me so much. The fact that they ended up saving them at the end with the final wish, you know, just goes to show what great people Finn and Jake are.
Yeah, they wouldn't have completed their adventures if they hadn't have gotten the hot dogs out either.
Well, they should have gone and got the hot dogs and then like thrown them out, you know. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the hot dogs are the reason they made it to the center anyways, because Jake and Finn was constantly struggling with he was struggling with whether we should keep going or we should stop or whatever. He's like, Jake, are you okay? Like, you don't look good. You're looking skinny, all that stuff. And I love it. Jake's like, don't come at me with your body dysmorphia issues.
Don't be hating on my bod. Yeah. He's like,
yeah, I'm looking thin.
That's a good segue into taking a quick break. And before we talk about, I think really in the same, we probably both have very similar trains of thoughts with like motivation versus peer pressure. And I have a lot of, I want to talk about wishing too, because I feel like that whole end scene is like one of the most like TikTokable. Like every time I get on Instagram for Adventure Time content, it's always like, I wish for a box. It's always one of the most like quotable ones.
I've got everybody's favorite segment, 3 wasted wishes, that we'll get to at the end of this episode as well.
Yeah, let's take a break and then we'll get right to it. Hey, all you adventurers new, this is Stodgy over here. Come on down to the Candy Kingdom this week and come to Stodgy's new Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant Gift Shop and Emporium. We've got all the new accessories for your Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant. We've got little booties for them to help with the rocket blasting booties. We also have different types of capes and saddles for your Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant. So come on down. You got to get all these accessories. You can actually swap out the shotgun tusks for AK-47 tusks and even put little stickers on them. We got little stickers, little bumper stickers for your Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant. So come on down to Stodgy's Ancient Psychic Tandem War Elephant Gift Shop and Emporium today, located on the corner of Gumdrop and Licorice Lane in the Candy Kingdom.
Dance, magic dance. What's up? Oh, Ned, are you recording?
Yeah, I record while you were singing the Labyrinth songs.
Yeah, I saw the little red button come up and I was like, oh, crap. All right, get back to the microphone.
Got him. Hey, speaking of funny, or not funny, but musical acts, because that's good, David. I saw in concert on Thursday night Jeremy Shada, the lead voice of Finn in Adventure Time through all of the years. He's doing a whole music career right now. He's got some really great stuff. It's kind of, I'd say it's somewhere crossed between like a classic poppy Michael Bublé meets Justin Timberlake meets Shawn Mendes, kind of somewhere in between all of that.
What? You told me about this concert, and that was not at all what I imagined the references to be.
It's very poppy, but it's very much driven by, I feel like, his lead vocals and stuff like that. So I was like, dude,
not a sponsor.
He's a talented guy, man.
Yeah, not a sponsor, but I'm about that.
Yeah.
It's incredibly cool to me that they took a kid, I don't know what the process was for trying to find someone to voice Finn, but the fact that they actually had a kid that was like kind of going through puberty and all that to voice Finn is awesome. They did that with the Avatar as well.
Yeah, I've heard both. Yeah.
Yeah,
they have like a kid that grew up
doing Aang. That's so cool. I mean, it's so authentic, and it almost feels more real because you get to hear. And in both of these shows, I think the way you can pull this off is that the characters grow. If it was a show like Rugrats or whatever, which is actually, what are you going to do? Get a bunch of babies? That would never work out. But
voiced by real babies.
But even in like South Park, that's a tricky one because what is it? Kyle's brother is voiced by the daughter of one of the two guys who created South Park, and that character never grows up. So at some point, that child can no longer voice Kyle's brother. But in this, those characters grow. And so you can constantly have them getting older. And the voice actors get older. That is so special. And I love, that was such a cool fact when I discovered that or came across that. And it's just so cool that you went and saw him play a show.
Yeah. It was so funny. He's got such a unique Finn voice. I think he does turn on a Finn voice in Adventure Time. Like, that's a little bit different than his normal voice.
Really? Okay.
But there was a couple of songs, especially when he sang kind of deeper, like Finn sings in the show. I would look at Jackie was like, look at the floor. It just sounds just like this little segment sounds just like Finn. But then when he goes up and hits the high notes, it's his totally like own unique voice, which I was like, good for you, man. Good for you for not making it sound too Adventure Timey and he's not being a cheeser with it either. He's actually like making good music out there, which is awesome,
Well, man, if we could have him on the podcast one day, that would just be too freaking cool.
Yeah, I would
I'm not
love it.
foreshadowing saying we're going to do that. I'm just saying I want to do that so bad.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Hopefully, hopefully he just catches wind of the podcast itself. I got to talk to his drummer after the show and talked with the drummer a little bit about our podcast, and he was like, "Oh, that's awesome. I've never watched Adventure Time," and I was like, "Dude, you ought to, because like the guy you're touring with, it's like that's been his whole career up until this point, you know."
Wow. Yeah. I wonder if, and we kind of mentioned this too, like in our conversation beforehand, I wonder if he doesn't like that he's associated with Finn so much, or if it's something that he's trying to like grow past or whatever in his career, or if maybe he loves it. I'm curious. That's another thing. I just would love to pick his brain.
Yeah. Well, we definitely would want to have him on the show to talk about Adventure Time, obviously, maybe an episode that's his favorite or something like that, but also in order to make sure that we are continuing to promote his like growing career, not like make him, very much. I feel like how Mark Hamill was before he started voice acting. He felt he was always kind of stuck in that Luke Skywalker world, and it was hard for him to be in other like movies as a live actor because they're like, "Oh, it's Luke from Star Wars."
Yeah, and I think I wonder too with Mark Hamill. This is such a aside, but if the car crash that he had in between the first two movies, if that played a big part in him going, maybe I'm not going to be, the main role of movies from here on out, and I need to. I don't know. Like I still think he was a great looking dude in Empire Strikes Back, but who knows? Maybe he was just like, maybe it's not for me. And he's so talented. Mark Hamill is
that's
like
when he
amazingly talented.
What does he do in I think it's the Enchiridion episode of Adventure Time when he voices the final like evil lair demon, whatever it was at the end of Enchiridion, and that you were like, that's Mark Hamill, and I was like, dude, I would have never known, and I was like that's super talented voice acting.
Yeah, he did. He was the Fear Feaster as well. Like, dude, Mark Hamill's amazing.
That's
Love
great.
him.
Well, now we definitely don't go on tangents in this show, do we?
Not at once.
Not at once. Well, let's get back into this episode and first of all, I feel like there's two deeper areas that we always we like to go deep in this show. But one was the motivational and peer pressure aspect. So I kind of wanted to just pick your brain on how you felt about this peer pressure situation that Jake's put in.
This is not a positive peer pressure situation. I think most of the time when you think of peer pressure, you're constantly going back to negative peer pressure. It feels like it's usually something that's used by other people to get you to do, like the class. When we were growing up, everywhere in elementary school, like every Mac coming in from outside all said like, don't do drugs, like it was big, the war on drugs thing or whatever in like the late 90s, or I don't even know when that was, but it definitely had a like, don't smoke cigarettes, don't do drugs was like the thing that was preached to us so much when we were kids, which, don't, but like also, if, I don't know, whatever. I don't know what our stats are. I'm yawning. I have had coffee. We're recorded early Sunday. I don't know. That's a weird, tricky thing that we're getting into, but don't do cigarettes. How about that? I'm not a big fan of cigarettes.
I can vouch for that one.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, caffeine's a drug, alcohol is a drug, like marijuana is a drug. Like there's a lot of
I'm going to peer pressure you into drinking this cup of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, dude, I'm telling you what, man, I have like bad acid reflux and coffee. I shouldn't be drinking coffee. I'm drinking coffee all the time because it's just a social norm. It's something that we do. But in this episode, you have the hot dogs that are just like, come on, Jake. And Jake even says, like, I'll do anything after you say my name three times.
Yeah, I thought it was so. Yeah, I thought it was just funny because we typically think of like a peer pressure situation as somebody going like, just do it, man. Like it's something that is going to get you in trouble or that you're not supposed to be doing. But in this situation, it's a very interesting type of peer pressure because I feel like it's essentially it's not what they're doing is bad. Like going further into the maze is bad. It's like a personal
context.
Yeah. Well, and it's knowing your limits and kind of having to be self-aware of your limits. And Jake seems to be maybe never have tested his limits at this point. So he is very easily persuaded to just go the extra mile and never call it quits.
But even when he says, like, I'm going to die. And what really blew my mind was when Finn, the switch flipped with Finn, and he goes, I'm going to also add into the hot dog's negative peer pressure. In my opinion, I think this is negative because, yeah, push yourself, push your limits and all that stuff, but know your limits and know how far you can go before it's dangerous. And Jake, like you're saying, doesn't really know that yet, but he clearly was like, hey, my organs, my internal organs are so paper thin that I'm about to die. And
Yeah.
I wonder, and I would love to know your thoughts on this. Does Finn say, like, Jake, let's go. Let's get to the center. Let's get the war elephant, or let's get the wish, I think is what his motivation
Yeah.
is for. Is he trying to do that in order to get the war elephant, or is he doing that in order to get a wish to save Jake? Because at the end, he still wishes for the war elephant, and he gets lucky that the elephant has a wish itself because it's at the center of the labyrinth.
Yeah, I do think that Finn, you see it click in his mind that if he wishes for the war elephant, that the war elephant will also get a wish. And that's how, and he probably thought too that
What a
if
risk.
actually even if him and Jake accidentally wishes for a sandwich, and that kind of ruins Finn's first plan, maybe that Jake could wish to be, or Finn could wish for Jake to be saved, and then Jake could wish for the sake, like the war elephant. So then when Jake accidentally wishes for a sandwich, Finn spins that and goes, I will wish for the war elephant because he'll have a wish as well, you know?
Yeah. Well, I do want to mention, though, that I don't know. It's just such a risk. But I do want to mention that there is a such thing as positive, like peer pressure and pushing you and having friends and people around you that will push you out of your comfort zone. I think peer pressure, in a sense, is used to push you and used to get you out of your comfort zone. But knowing that sometimes it's for the sake of it can be for the sake of a memory. It can be for the sake of, hey, we know you can do this, and get up there and do that bench press or do whatever it is.
Yeah,
And
I think
positive,
I literally use that working out mentality. Like
Definitely.
what gets you motivated, and and I guess spinning this deep thought into my lesson is kind of like being self-aware of the, I guess, extrinsic values, like what other people do, like what gets you motivated. And in Jake's case, yeah, it is like when people hype you up and when you are kind of the star of the show, you're motivated. So like, yeah, in the gym, it's the same thing. If somebody was like, I don't do my best lifting unless I've got a spotter, and he's just like, push it, let's go, you got this. And like that, has that motivating. Now that doesn't motivate me really too much.
Well, and also do that at your home gym. Please don't do that at the YMCA.
Don't do that at the Crunch Fitness,
I don't want to hear that, but no, I agree. And like I was saying, like it can be for accomplishments, but a lot of times I think positive peer pressure can be for, hey, you're funny, and I know you've always wanted to do stand-up. We believe in you. Like, go do it. Like, let's encourage you to get in front of people and go outside of your comfort zone. Hey, we know that we're all here to go out and like we're drinking or whatever, we're having a good time, but you're about to make a decision to go dance or not to dance. And I promise you, if you go dance on that dance floor, even though you hate dancing, like you're going to make a memory and it's going to be such a fun time. Like things like that. That's positive peer pressure, in my opinion. Opportunities to create a memory or to potentially accomplish something that you've always wanted to. If you have friends or people around you that are influencing you in that way, like you're in a good spot. I think that's like my lesson is essentially like surround yourself with people that use positive peer pressure. Try and stay away from the negative peer pressure people if you can.
Yeah, but that goes into my theory, or not theory, but thought, yeah, the positive peer pressure is a good thing there, but the limitation, and this what the episode's named after, the limit, is that this was all positive peer pressure, and it worked. They even the hot dog scan, like you can do it, Jake. That he was able to defeat the golem after he had that extra, positive reinforcement motivation. But it's knowing where you draw the line, and I think that has to go with how we understand our limitation and what motivates us at the same time. So being like, I'm a very extroverted person, and if I have the opportunity to like hang out somewhere longer or go out to another person's house or overbook my week with activities, I'm like, yeah, and people are like, dude, but we want you there so bad. I'm like, yeah, and I don't ever I'm terrible at. That's my limitation, that I get like overly motivated by like positive peer pressure to do fun things, but I have to have that limitation of going, dude, I need to rest today. You know, I need to just totally bail on this event early. It's too late.
I'm kind of cracking up, bro, because I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to you. And like, also, you have a partner in Jackie who is very supportive and someone who pushes positive peer pressure in a lot of cool ways with you and with other people. But I feel like y'all balance each other out in that, where it's like you have that mentality of like, man, I'm like, let's do this sort of a thing. And then sometimes Jackie would be like, well, here's the thing. We've already done all this other things. You need a break. Like I can tell whether it's you or her or something like that. Like she can tell y'all's limits sometimes.
Yeah,
And
Jackie's
I
like
think
the Finn. She's like the Finn
thing.
to my Jake when she's like, "Hey, wait a minute, like maybe you shouldn't stretch anymore." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe I shouldn't."
Did you ever succumb to the negative peer pressure? Like, do you have an instance, or it could be positive peer pressure? Like, do you have a moment, a memory where that really played out in a way for you? I know in college, my friends used to have this thing where they would go, "Do it and you're cool." Whenever they would rant that,
that's
do it
awful.
and you're cool. Do it and you're cool. But it would usually be for like
something
eating
funny.
this gross thing at the dining hall or something stupid like that. It was never for like, hey, get wasted on Broadway, do it and you're cool sort of a thing. You know, it was always just fun, stupid dares.
Oh, for me, it's just kind of anytime anybody brings over a tray of shots, and I'm like, this is the last thing I want to do right now. But then, you know, it's like, I already bought it, man. Come on, like it costs like $10 whole. I'm like, okay, fine, like whatever, you know.
Yeah, the us instigators, man. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, for my friends when I was a little kid, when we would do stupid stunts, or it'd be like, let's set up a ramp and we'll get a bike and we'll go jump and see how far we can do the gap. I would not be the person doing the gap.
You'd be the instigator.
Yeah. Come on, dude, you got this. Until he almost, there was one time where my buddy ran into a swing set after the ramp, like, you know, hurt himself pretty bad. And it was because I was like, come on, man, easily. Like, you know, you could do it. I'm not going to do it, but you could do it.
So I'm the Jake, Jackie's the Finn, and Russell's the hot dog Knights.
Damn it, dude. I'm the hot dog Knights. I'm the most punchable character.
Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, that used to be a soundbite. Oh no.
Oh,
like
no.
Whenever
Russell
we come
has
to
a moment
realization.
of self-realization.
On that note, let's get to my segment, my hit segment, 3 Wasted Wishes.
3 Wasted Wishes.
Everybody's been waiting for this one. We've got some honorable wishes. I just want to say the wishing for a box was almost in, it's just top 3.
Top 3.
But wishing for a box was almost in it. I got to say the SpongeBob episode where they use their imagination and show us the true power of boxes takes that wish away. That's a great wish.
Yeah,
Wishing
the hot
for a
dog guy
box
did
is a
look
wish.
like he was very happy inside of his box too after he got it.
He's like, doesn't Finn say something like, "Oh, you hot dogs are stupid"? And he goes, "What do you mean by that?"
What do you mean?
They're dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in his mind that was like the best wish ever.
I think it's a great wish, man. Imagination. You can imagination. Number 3, wasted wishes. Hot dog wishing to blow up.
Yeah.
Got to be number 3. I did a little bit of research into my favorite wishes from TV shows, from books, all that stuff. Didn't spend a ton of time on it. I wanted to do top 10. Realized very quickly that was an irrational idea and needed to cut it down to 3. So wishing to blow up, essentially committing suicide. Pretty bad wish.
Yeah, but it seems like the hot dogs, they still leave the labyrinth with 4 hot dogs. So somehow I feel like they have some sort of regenerative ability, because you see one hot dog get wrecked.
Wish.
Oh, you think it like at that moment everybody like comes back together? That makes sense.
It did, yeah, because you had the one hot dog run across the traps and get nailed by the cannonball.
Yeah,
and then you had another one that potentially got crushed by the door, but I think really just got trapped in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
And then of course the one that blew itself up. So at the very end, I was like, man, they died and Finn and Jake failed their mission, but you see them on the back seat of the Psychic Tandem War Elephant at the end of the episode.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think the wish did bring them back. So you're right, definitely.
Yeah, it healed, because it also healed Jake entirely.
Yeah. So what you said, that was number Three.
Number 2 is Patrick Star from SpongeBob when they're on the Flying Dutchman ship and the Flying Dutchman wants his magic sock back and they give him the sock. And so they get to have 3 wishes. And Patrick says that he wishes that they knew that they had 3 wishes sooner. And that is how he wastes his wish.
That's a great one.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. And a lot of times it's funny because wishes usually, when it comes to a genie or anything like this, like your wish will have negative consequences.
Yeah, that's what typically in those wish situations in the show, movie, or whatever, it's always about like the catch is that it's something ironic and it's going to either spin off of your wordplay or spin off of, hey, you like, if you're like, I wish I had $1 million. And then it's like, oh, great, you have $1 million. But then the IRS is like, where did you get $1 million? Like, you're screwed, you know? That you had to almost. And I was like, I was going to ask you, actually get to your last one. I've got a question for you in that.
Number 1, number one wasted wish in media, according to Russell in this episode of the podcast, Oolong's Shenron wish in Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball series. You have Pilot, and I'm sorry, I'm totally botching all of these names. I haven't seen this series, or not Pilaf. I haven't seen this series since I was a little kid. He goes up, they collect all the Dragon Balls, and they summon the giant eternal dragon to make one wish. And you have Pilaf, who's about to wish to rule the world. And Oolong, who's like this pig character, runs up and distracts the dragon and wishes for the world's most comfortable underwear. And that is the wish. And then all the Dragon Balls scatter throughout the world again. And he has the world's most comfortable underwear. I say it's a wasted wish because, the potential there, but truly an amazing wish. And
an amazing waste of a wish.
It is. I would love, could you imagine how comfortable that underwear must have been?
Yeah. I probably enough to just make a man go mad. But that's another thing, like,
oh yeah,
in Rick and Morty, whenever you get what you want, whenever Rick achieves perfect level and Morty can't handle it, it's like that. It's like that thing. Maybe it's the underwear is so comfortable it makes you go mad.
Oh man, great episode of Rick and Morty too. Yeah, you just can never take it off, or it's like this total bliss thing that distracts you from your ability to do anything else in the real world.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can't ever wear pants again because they're too uncomfortable because you have only perfect underwear, but you want perfect pants.
I don't think it plays out that way in Dragon Ball, but I think it's just kind of like a running joke at that point that like the pig has perfect underwear. But I thought that was such a great wasted wish.
Yeah. Well, if you had, this leads to my question for you.
I was afraid of this.
Yeah, like because now thinking about like he's like, well, not what would your 3 wishes be, but like, how would you go about the strategy of you see some deceiving wish meister? How would you just sit there for half an hour and almost like write a 2-paragraph long script about all of the like loopholes that could happen, or do you just go for it?
I hate to say this. This sounds super lame. I think I might be one of those guys that don't do it. I think there's just no great way to go about the wishes thing. I think especially if you say you wish to be a rock star or whatever, and you didn't earn it, you got it through a wish. It's that whole thing with people who win the lottery, and a lot of times they blow the money. They don't know how to do it. They're not financially stable after that point. A lot of times, all that money. I don't know. I think if you didn't earn whatever it is that you're wishing for, you're going to mess it up, or it's going to be messed up, or there's going to be negative consequences from it. And you're not going to really appreciate it. You're not going to be fulfilled by that thing. And even if you did earn it, you may not be completely fulfilled by it, because as humans, we're never like truly fulfilled by, whatever we think is going to fulfill us, but
see, well, then I would spin that back around on you and say, okay, instead of going so big with it, if you were it was like, obviously this is going to get messed up. I don't earn it. I'm going to blow it. Just simplify it down. Be like, I wish I had an original shadowless holographic shiny Charizard or something like that. Just like one thing, where that's like, what would be the catch, or like, and you have to get really detailed. PSA 10 in the thing, true grade, whatever, like authentic, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost so simple that somebody I feel like who was handing out ironic wishes would be like, oh, okay, just have it. Like,
Man, my mind is stuck on apple pie. I don't know why. And the issue would be I'd never have as good of an apple pie ever again, and it would ruin apple pies for me, which it's like my favorite dessert. But I was like, what if I had the perfect apple pie? A never ending, no, because then I'd just be stuck. I could only eat apple pie, and then I would get like out of shape or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Gosh, I hate this. I can't do it. What about you?
I have a theory, just not a theory. I've always thought about, because you can't be like, I just wish I had unlimited money, or I wish I had $1 bajillion. Because there's the catch, there's the lottery aspect to that, and the IRS aspect to that. And mine would be like, I would always wish that inflation. I had like one pair of pants that, no matter what I was purchasing, I got to the checkout, whenever I was purchasing an item, I always had the exact right amount of money in my pocket to purchase it.
That's pretty good.
Because at that point you couldn't like go buy a house and be like, I've got as much cash in my pocket. Yeah, you could, but you could at least do everything else in life. Like you buy your TV. Like IRS is not like calculating your assets or anything like that per se, but you still have to be authentic. You couldn't go buy stock. They'd be like, where you didn't make that much money
you probably couldn't be buying mansions and stuff like that. Eventually someone would go, hey, what's up with this celebrity guy who everybody loves and throws these massive parties? Like, there would definitely be limitations to that you could actually get away with. But that's really fascinating. I kind of like that.
It almost helps you fly under the radar. And I don't think I think the only way ironic wish giver could screw that over is like they'd give you the exact right amount, if you didn't say it right, but the exact right amount of money in pennies or something like that. There would be a catch to it. So you'd have to be really specific, like exact right amount of money to purchase the item in $100 bills. Only I can use the pants, blah, 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 whatever it would be. And the pants could never catch on fire. Like,
it reminds me of like, my favorite thing is like discussing favorite mundane superpowers, like trying to figure out like what the like lamest best superpower would be. Like always have mayonnaise, like the ability to like have mayonnaise come out of your finger, like we see Jake do in the Wizards episode or something like that. Like superpowers that don't really matter. This is like wishes that like don't really affect you in any major way, but are just like would be fun to have for some reason.
I wish I could grow a beard on command. Boom. Like,
yeah,
a great beard on command. I don't know.
Or wish I was incredibly charismatic and everybody loved me. That would be bad.
Yeah, that's a catch one for sure.
That for sure is. I think we even see Morty do that in one of. Anyways, we're tangenting, but
no more tangents. Well, send us home here. Send us home in terms of like what you learn. What's your lessons to grab out of the show?
We kind of mentioned it already. Surround yourself with positive peer pressure people. And know your limits. Like know your limits in the sense that like you've. Like push yourself, find your limits in positive ways and know when you got to bat down from things sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's my exact one was don't do what people say just because they say your name 3 times. And then find that balance between being overly persuaded or peer pressured by people, but also find what motivates you to go the extra mile and then be self-aware. Make sure that you never get used and abused because of that. So it's always good for us to like know exactly what pushes us over the edge and where is that edge.
Do you have an application for this week? Are you going to do that in some way this week? That could be a fun thing probably. That we do sometimes.
Well, I've already said yes to a lot of things this week. I'm pretty much already busy almost every night of the week.
I know. You're like, yeah, I could record Sunday morning or maybe Monday at 5.
Yeah, that was like, it's a slammed week for sure. But I think my application for that is next week. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm doing one thing. I'm not going to do any more than that. I'm going to have to say no.
Yeah. And that one thing is recording the podcast.
And it's recording a podcast. Maybe. All right, man. Well, where can our listeners follow us?
You can follow us at Instagram at Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast, Twitter at NEA_podcast. Email us your thoughts, your opinions, whatever you want to do at NEA.travelerslog@gmail.com. YouTube, go find us on YouTube. We're there. We're posting a lot of the things you can find in other places, but it helps us if you want us to be able to get people like the original voice actor of Finn from Adventure Time on the podcast. We got to grow this podcast. We got to prove that we have what it takes, and you can help us by subscribing
doing anything.
And yeah, reviewing us. I found out this week that you can literally review us on Spotify.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Us, you can rate us on Spotify. So just at our profile, just go on to, any Spotify account and rate us. Yeah, I want a 5-star. Give us a 5-star.
Give us that 5-star, baby.
I'm a 5-star. If you like Dan Harmon's podcast, Harmontown, you know what I'm talking about when I say that. But that. And then, of course, Apple Podcasts. That helps so much with the SEO if you rate and review us there. We love you guys. I know we have an email on the NEA Traveler's Log. We'll get to that next week. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, and I know we got to get moving today. But we'll get back to it. We'll get to it.
We will get to you guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Love y'all. And heck yeah, great week. Can't wait for next week. Next Tuesday. See you guys.
See you guys. Love to you.
Party forever.